The bucket hit the rocks with a crack that split the dawn, and every drop of water Lily had fought for since before sunrise splashed into the dust. The 5-year-old dropped to her knees and clawed at the wet mud with bleeding fingers. "No, no, Mama needs it, please." Her small voice broke into a sob. She'd sworn she wouldn't cry. Behind her, a shadow moved. A man on a dark horse sat watching, one gloved hand resting on the pistol at his hip, his eyes fixed on the child, like he'd just seen a ghost rise out of the earth. Before we go any further, if this little girl's story touches your heart, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and stay with me until the very last word. And in the comments below, tell me the town or city you're watching from tonight. I'd love to see how far Lily's journey has traveled across this great country. Now, let's step back into that dusty Wyoming morning, where a broken cowboy and a dying mother's child are about to change each other forever. The man on the horse didn't speak. He didn't move. Lily scraped another handful of mud into her palms and pressed it against her chest as if she could carry the water home that way. Her lips were cracked. Her knees were raw. She didn't look at him. "Mama's waitin'," she whispered to the dirt. "Mama's waitin', and I already broke the last bucket." The horse snorted. The saddle creaked as the rider shifted his weight. "Little miss." She froze. "Little miss, that water's gone." "It ain't." "It's gone, child. Leave it be." "It ain't gone." She scooped faster, frantic, her small shoulders shaking. "You don't know nothin'. You don't know my mama. You don't know nothin' about it." The man was quiet a long moment. "No, ma'am," he said finally. "I reckon I don't." He dismounted slow. Lily heard the soft thud of boots, the jingle of a spur, and every muscle in her tiny body went stiff. Her mama had warned her about men. Men with guns. Men with quiet voices. Men who offered things. "Stay back." "Yes, ma'am." "I mean it. I believe you. I got a knife." "Do you now?" "I do." "Where is it?" A long pause. Her lower lip began to tremble. "I lost it." He crouched down. He didn't come closer. He just lowered himself so his face was nearer her level, his hat tipped low against the rising sun. "My name's Daniel," he said. "Daniel Carter, and I ain't gonna hurt you." "That's what bad men say." "Reckon that's true. So why should I believe you?" He didn't answer right away. He took off his hat and set it on his knee, slow as he could, like he was calming a wild colt. "'Cause I ain't offering nothin'," he said. "I'm just asking a question." "What question?" He looked at her bleeding hands. He looked at the shattered bucket. He looked at the mud on her dress and the bones showing through her sleeves. "Are you alone out here, little miss?" Lily's hands stilled in the dirt. She lifted her chin a fraction, and for the first time her pale blue eyes met his. "No, sir," she said. "I got my mama." "Where's your mama?" "Home." "Why ain't she here?" "'Cause she can't walk no more." Daniel closed his eyes for a breath. When he opened them, something had shifted in his face, though his voice stayed the same. "And your daddy?" "Gone." "Gone where?" "Just gone." "How long?" "2 winters. 2 winters." He said it soft, not a question. "And you been hauling this bucket since when?" "Since Mama started coughin' blood." Daniel turned his face away. The muscles along his jaw worked like he was chewing something hard to swallow. Lily watched him suspicious, her small, filthy fingers curled into fists on her knees. "Mr. "Yes, ma'am." "Why you cryin'?" "I ain't cryin'." "You look like you're cryin'." "Got dust in my eyes." "There ain't no wind." He almost smiled. "Almost. You're a sharp one, little miss." "My name's Lily." "Lily." "Lily May Harper." "That's a pretty name." "My mama picked it." "She picked well." Lily considered him for a long moment. Then, without warning, she pushed herself up on her shaking legs and bent down to gather the pieces of the shattered bucket. The wooden slats were split clean through. The iron hoop had sprung. She pressed the ruined thing against her chest anyway, like she could hold it together by wanting it bad enough. "I gotta go," she said. Lily? I gotta go. Mama gets scared when I'm gone too long. That bucket ain't gonna hold nothing, sweetheart. I know. Then what are you? I don't know. Her voice cracked and the word came out small and furious. I don't know, mister, but I gotta bring her something. I gotta, 'cause she ain't had water since yesterday morning. And if she don't drink, she'll... She couldn't finish it. Her whole small body folded in on itself, and the broken bucket slipped from her arms onto her feet, and she stood there in the mud without a sound, because she didn't have the strength left to cry. Daniel stood up. He was taller than her daddy had been, and he moved with the slow care of a man used to spooking horses. Lily. What? How far's home? Ain't far. How far? A mile, maybe. A mile. He let out a breath. All right, little miss. You listen to me now. I ain't supposed to listen to strangers. I know that. Mama said. Your mama's right. Then why should I listen? 'Cause I'm gonna do something, and I want you to know what it is before I do it, so you ain't scared. Lily took one small step back. What are you gonna do? I'm gonna fill my canteen at that well. Then I'm gonna hand it to you. Then I'm gonna get back on my horse and ride off the way I came, and you're gonna walk home to your mama with enough water to last her the day. Why? 'Cause I want to. Folks don't do things 'cause they want to. They want something back. Who told you that? Everybody. Daniel looked down at her. His eyes were gray like river stones and tired in a way that went deeper than sleep. Then everybody's wrong, Lily Mae Harper. She didn't answer. She watched him walk to the well. She watched him lower the rope hand over hand, with arms thick as fence posts, and she watched him haul it up so fast the pulley squealed. She watched him unstop his canteen and tip it full, the water catching the pink light of dawn like something holy. And when he held it out to her, she didn't take it. Put it down, she said. Ma'am. Put it on the ground, then step back. He almost smiled again. He set the canteen gentle in the dirt and took 3 long steps backward. His hands raised flat so she could see them. Better. Better. She crept forward. She picked it up. She held it to her ear and shook it to hear the water slosh, and then she pressed it against her chest exactly the way she'd pressed the broken bucket. Only now her face changed. Now her eyes shone. Mr. Daniel. Yes, ma'am. How do I give it back? It's yours. I don't take charity. It ain't charity. What is it then? He thought a long moment. It's a loan, he said. You can pay me back whenever you're grown. That's a long time. I'll wait. You might be dead. I might. Then it's charity. Then it's a gift. I don't take gifts from strangers. Lily Mae. My mama said. Daniel let out a slow breath and sat down right there in the dirt, cross-legged like a boy, his hat on his knee, and the Wyoming morning burning up all around them. Lily, can I ask you something? What? Has your mama ate today? No, sir. Yesterday. A long silence. Little bit. How little, a piece. A piece of what? Bread. How old was the bread? Pretty old. And you? She didn't answer. She just stared at her muddy feet. Lily, look at me. She didn't. Little miss, look at me. She did finally, her jaw trembling. You keep that canteen, he said. You take it home. You give every drop to your mama first, and anything she don't finish you drink yourself. You hear me? Yes, sir. And if I ride past your place tomorrow, just ride past, mind you not stop, and there happens to be a proper bucket sittin' on the porch that ain't from me neither. You understand? Who would it be from? The wind, maybe. The wind don't carry buckets. Wyoming wind does. Lily almost smiled. She caught herself and didn't let it come. I gotta go, mister. Go on then. Thank you for the loan. Ain't a loan anymore. It's a gift. Ain't a gift. It's a loan. All right, little miss. A loan. She turned and started walking, the canteen hugged to her chest, her bare feet kicking up pale dust. Daniel didn't mount his horse. He just sat there in the dirt and watched her until she was a small dark shape against the rising sun, and then a smaller shape, and then nothing at all. Then he put his face in his hands. "Lord have mercy," he whispered to nobody. "Lord have mercy on that child." The cabin was the color of old bone. Lily pushed the door open with her shoulder because her arms were full, and she crept inside the way she'd learned to do, quiet as a mouse, because loud noises hurt Mama's head now. "Mama." No answer. "Mama, I'm home." Still nothing. Lily's breath caught. She set the canteen on the dirt floor and hurried to the little pallet by the wall, her heart hammering in her chest like a trapped bird. "Mama, please." "I hear you, baby." The voice was a whisper, cracked and thin. "I hear you. I was just resting my eyes." Lily dropped to her knees beside the pallet and pressed her small hand against her mother's forehead, the way her mother used to do for her. "You're hot, Mama. I'm all right. You're real hot. I'm all right, Lily May. Did you—" A cough tore through Sarah Harper's chest, bending her half off the pallet. Lily held her up with both skinny arms until the coughing passed, and her mother could breathe again, shallow and rattling. "Did you get water, baby?" "I got better in water." "What's better in water?" "A canteen." Sarah's eyes, gray-blue and sunken in their sockets, opened slow. "A canteen. A man gave it to me." Her mother tried to sit up and couldn't. Fear flickered across her face, sharper than the pain. "What man?" "His name is Daniel." "Daniel who?" "Daniel Carter." "Lily." "He didn't touch me. He didn't come near. He put it on the ground, Mama, and stepped back like you said. And he called me ma'am." "He called you ma'am?" "3 times, maybe 4. Sarah closed her eyes. Tears slid from the corners of them into her hair. "Oh, baby." "Don't cry, Mama." "I ain't crying. You look like you're crying." "Got dust in my eyes." "There ain't no wind in here, Mama." A broken sound came out of Sarah that might have been a laugh. She reached up with a hand that trembled like a leaf and cupped her daughter's face, and Lily leaned into it the way a cat leans into warmth. "Where's the canteen, sweet pea?" "Right here." "Bring it." Lily fetched it. Sarah's hand shook so bad she couldn't lift it alone, and the two of them together, little fingers wrapped around thin-waisted ones, tipped the canteen to her lips. She drank like a woman pulled from a desert. When she stopped, half the water was gone, and she pushed it back at her daughter. "The rest is yours." "No, Mama." "Drink it, Lily." "Mr. Daniel said Mama first." "Mr. Daniel ain't your Mama. He said you first, then me. That was the deal." "The deal? It's a loan." Sarah looked at her child for a long, still moment. "Lily May Harper." "Ma'am, you listen to me." "Yes, ma'am." "There ain't no such thing as a free loan from a man in this country. You hear me?" "Yes, ma'am." "Don't you go back to that well tomorrow." "But, Mama." "Don't you go back." "Mama, we don't got no water." "We'll manage." "We won't. We won't manage, Mama. The jug's empty, the barrel's empty. I checked." Sarah closed her eyes again and didn't open them for so long that Lily put her ear against her mother's mouth to make sure she was still breathing. She was barely. "Baby," Sarah whispered. "Baby, come lay down beside me." Lily climbed onto the pallet and curled against the burning furnace of her mother's ribs. She could feel every bone. She could count them with her eyes closed. "Mama." "Yes, sweet pea." "Are you dying?" A silence. "I don't know, baby." "If you die, where will I go?" "Hush now." "Where will I go, Mama?" "God will send somebody." "God ain't sent nobody in 2 winters." Sarah didn't answer that. She just held her daughter tighter, and her breath came shallow and wet against Lily's hair, and outside the thin walls of the cabin, the Wyoming wind began to rise. The knock at the door came just before noon. Lily sat up fast. Sarah's eyes snapped open. "Who is it?" Sarah called, her voice stronger than it had any business being. "Mrs. Harper, it's Eldon Crane. Open up now." Sarah's face went white as chalk. "Lily, Lily, listen to me." "Yes, Mama." "Go to the back, behind the stove. Don't come out till I say." "Who is he?" "Go, child." "Mama, go." And Lily scrambled off the pallet and wedged herself behind the cold iron stove, small as she could make herself. Her hands clapped over her own mouth. The door opened without being asked. A boot struck the floor. Then another. "Now, Mrs. Harper." The voice was slick, not angry. Worse than angry. Pleasant. "You know why I'm here?" "I know." 3 months behind. "I know that too. Mr. Vance has been patient. Mr. Vance has been exceedin' patient. Mr. Vance has been waitin' for me to die, Eldon, and we both know it." A soft chuckle. "That's an ugly thing to say, ma'am." "The truth's an ugly thing." A pause. A scrape of boots coming closer to the pallet. Lily pressed herself harder into the wall and bit down on her own knuckle. "Where's the girl, Sarah?" "Out." "Out where?" "Out. Folks in town are sayin' you oughtn't to have her, sayin' she ain't fed, sayin' she ain't clothed, sayin' a sick woman can't raise a child out here alone. Folks in town can go to hell, Eldon Crane. Now, Sarah, tell Mr. Vance if he wants this land he can come get it himself. I ain't signin' nothin', not today, not tomorrow, not the day they put me in the ground." "That's a shame, ma'am. That's a real shame. 'Cause you see there are other ways." "What other ways?" "The judge is a reasonable man. So's the sheriff. And when a child is sufferin' well, the law has provisions." Behind the stove, Lily's breath stopped entire. "You lay one hand on my daughter," Sarah whispered, and her voice was a thing Lily had never heard come out of her, "and I will haunt you, Eldon Crane. I will haunt you into your grave." A long silence. Then the slick laugh again, quieter now. 3 months, Sarah. You got 3 months. Mr. Vance is generous." The boots turned. The door opened. The boots walked out. Lily didn't come from behind the stove for a long time. When she finally crept back to the pallet, her mother's eyes were closed and tears were running silent down into her hair, and the canteen Daniel Carter had given her sat on the floor between them, half full, gleaming soft in the midday light, like something small and impossible. "Mama?" "Yes, baby. I'm going back to the well tomorrow." "Lily." "I'm going back, Mama." Sarah opened her eyes. She looked at her daughter for a long, long time. "All right, sweet pea," she whispered at last. "All right." And outside on the far ridge, where a man sat unmoving on a dark horse and watched a thin line of smoke rise from a tumble-down cabin at the edge of nothing, Daniel Carter reached into his saddlebag, pulled out a folded wanted poster with his own face printed on it and set it on fire between 2 gloved fingers. He watched the paper curl to ash. He watched the ash scatter on the Wyoming wind. Then he turned his horse toward town. The town of Redwater was the kind of place a man rode through, not into. Daniel Carter rode into it anyway. He tied his horse outside Harlow's General Store and pulled his hat low. A woman on the boardwalk looked at him twice. A man outside the saloon stopped mid-conversation. Daniel didn't meet any of their eyes. He stepped inside the store and let the door shut behind him. "Help you, mister." The shopkeeper was thin and wary, a pencil behind one ear. "I'll take a bucket. Oak iron-bound. The good kind." "That'll be $1. "Fine. And I'll take a sack of flour, a sack of beans, salt pork, what you got, coffee, sugar ½ pound, cornmeal, tin of lard, 2 pounds of dried apples." The shopkeeper's pencil had come out from behind his ear and was moving fast. "Anything else, mister?" "A shawl." "A shawl. Woman's shawl. Wool. Warmest you got." "Got a gray one. Got the blue one." "The blue one." "And little girl's boots. Size—" Daniel held up his hand and squinted at the space between his fingers. "Size real small. You got anything?" "I got a pair a widow brought in last month. Her girl outgrew 'em." "I'll take 'em." The shopkeeper set the pencil down. He was looking at Daniel now, the way folks looked at a thundercloud coming in from the west. "Mister, that's a considerable sum." "I know it." "Don't recall your face." "You wouldn't. You stayin' long?" "No." "Well, that's your business." The shopkeeper bent to his figuring. "Comes to $9.40. Daniel laid a $10 gold piece on the counter. The shopkeeper stared at it like it had fallen out of the sky. "Keep the change." "Mister, keep it." "Who'm I tellin' you bought this for, if somebody asks?" Daniel picked up the bucket. He tucked the shawl under one arm. He lifted the sack of flour onto his shoulder as if it weighed nothing. "Nobody," he said. "Mister, that ain't an answer." "It's the only one you're gonna get." He walked out. The shopkeeper stood behind his counter and watched the door swing shut, and then he looked down at the $10 gold piece. And then he looked up the street toward the big white house on the hill, where Jeremiah Vance was surely taking his afternoon whiskey, and his mouth got thin. Daniel didn't ride back to the Harper cabin. Not yet. He rode out past the edge of town to a stand of cottonwoods, and he set down the supplies, and he sat with his back against a trunk and waited for the dark. The Wyoming dark came slow and cold. When he finally moved, the moon was a thin silver sickle, and the cabin was a shadow at the foot of the ridge. He walked his horse the last quarter mile. He didn't knock. He didn't call out. He set the bucket on the porch step. He set the sack of flour beside it. He set the beans, the salt pork, the coffee, the sugar, the cornmeal, the lard, the apples, the shawl folded on top, the little boots tucked into the shawl, and then he turned to go. The door opened behind him. "Mister." Daniel froze. "Mister, don't move." He heard the small, dry click of a hammer being pulled back. He raised his hands, palms out, slow. "Yes, ma'am." "Turn around." "Yes, ma'am." He turned. Sarah Harper was standing in the doorway, in a nightdress that hung off her like a sail off a broken mast, a double-barrel shotgun braced against her hip. Her hair was matted with fever sweat. Her eyes were bright and hard. "Name?" "Daniel Carter, ma'am." "Daniel Carter." "Yes, ma'am." "You gave my child a canteen." "Yes, ma'am." "You followed her home." "I watched where she went. I didn't follow." "That ain't a distinction I care for, mister." "No, ma'am, I reckon it ain't." The barrel didn't waver. Behind her, at knee level, a small face appeared in the dark of the doorway. "Mama, that's him." "I know who it is, baby. Get back inside." "Mama!" "Lily, May, get back inside." The small face vanished. Sarah took one step out onto the porch. The boards creaked under her bare feet. She looked at the mound of supplies. She looked at Daniel. She looked at the supplies again. "What's all this?" "Provisions, ma'am." "For who?" "For the wind?" "Don't play with me, mister. I'm a dying woman, and I got no time for games." "Yes, ma'am." "What do you want?" "Nothin'. Everybody wants something." "So I've been told, today, by your daughter." Sarah's jaw tightened. "Speak plain." "Plain is I rode past a well this mornin' and saw a child bleedin' into the dirt. Plain is that child's mother is sick. Plain is I had money in my pocket and a horse under me and no place in particular to be. Plain is I don't need you to thank me, and I don't want you to pay me, and I don't aim to set foot in this house unless you invite me. I ain't invitin' you. Didn't ask you to. Then why are you still standin' on my porch? You got a shotgun on me, ma'am." A silence. Then slowly Sarah lowered the barrel. "Not all the way. Halfway." "Mr. Carter." "Ma'am." "Why?" The word was bare. It wasn't a demand anymore. It was a question from a woman who had run out of places to put that question in the world. Daniel took off his hat. He held it against his chest. "Ma'am," he said, "I had a little girl once." Sarah didn't speak. "She'd have been about 6 now," Daniel said, "if things had gone different." "Oh," Sarah whispered. "Her mama was sick too, not like you. Different sick, but sick." "What happened?" "There weren't no stranger rode up to our well, ma'am." Sarah closed her eyes. The shotgun dipped. "Mr. Carter?" "Yes, ma'am." "Come inside." "Ma'am, I don't think—" "Come inside. It's cold out there, and you're gonna catch your death, and I'll be damned if a man who just bought my child a pair of boots freezes to death on my porch." "Yes, ma'am." He carried in the supplies one armful at a time. Lily watched from behind the stove, her eyes huge and solemn. Her small fingers wrapped around a splintered piece of kindling she'd evidently decided was a weapon. Daniel pretended not to see her. He set everything on the table. He set the boots last, right on top of the shawl, and he stepped back. "Lily May," Sarah said softly. "Come out from there." "Mama?" "It's all right, baby. Come out." Lily crept out slow. She didn't look at Daniel. She went to the table. She reached up on her tiptoes and touched the little boots with one finger, barely as if they might disappear. "Mama." "Yes, sweet pea." "Are these for me?" "They're for you, baby." Lily pulled her hand back. She put both hands behind her back. "I don't take charity." Daniel laughed. It came out of him before he could catch it, a short, rough sound that surprised him more than anyone else in the room. "Miss Harper," he said. "Ma'am, those ain't charity neither." "What are they?" "A loan." "Till when?" "Till you're grown." Lily considered this. She looked up at her mother. Sarah was watching Daniel with an expression Lily couldn't read. "Mama, can I take a loan?" "You can take a loan, sweet pea." Lily picked up the boots. She held them to her chest. She sat down on the dirt floor right there and pulled them on over her bare, dirty feet, and they fit. And something cracked wide open inside Sarah Harper's chest that she'd been holding shut for 2 years. She turned her face away fast. "Mr. Carter?" "Ma'am." "Sit down. I can eat on the porch." "Sit down," I said. "Yes, ma'am." He sat. Sarah lowered herself onto the edge of the pallet, because standing any longer would have put her on the floor. She set the shotgun beside her within easy reach. She didn't apologize for it, and Daniel didn't expect her to. "Mr. Carter." "Ma'am, you can call me Daniel." "I'll call you Mr. Carter till I know you better." "Yes, ma'am." "Mr. Carter, a man named Eldon Crane came to this house today." Daniel's hand stilled on his hat. "I know him." "Do you?" "Knew him before I knew myself. He rides for Jeremiah Vance." "Yes." "Ma'am, what did he want?" "He wanted what Vance wants. The land. The well." "And—" Sarah's eyes found Lily on the floor, small and quiet and absorbed in her new boots. "And her." Daniel didn't move. He didn't have to. Something happened to his face that made Sarah think in a distant part of her fever-brained mind that she was glad this man was on her porch and not someone else's. "When?" 3 months. 3 months to what? To pay up. Or they take the land. Or they take her. Or both. "They can't take her." "They can, Mr. Carter. They got the judge. They got the sheriff. They got the priest and the banker and every man in this county who ever owed Jeremiah Vance a favor, which is every man in this county. Miss Harper." "Ma'am, they ain't taken her." Sarah looked at him a long time. "Mr. Carter, you don't know these men." "Oh, ma'am," Daniel said softly. "I know men like these men. I've been knowing men like these men my whole life. And I'm telling you." He leaned forward, and his gray eyes caught the lamplight and held it. "They ain't taken her." Sarah didn't answer. She couldn't. Her throat had closed up. Lily had stopped admiring her boots. She was listening. She'd been listening the whole time. "Mr. Daniel?" "Yes, Lily May." "Are they going to take me from Mama?" Daniel turned in his chair so he faced her direct. "No, ma'am." "How do you know?" "'Cause I say so." "That ain't an answer." "It's the only answer I got, little miss. You'll have to take it on loan." She thought about that. She stood up in her new boots and walked over to him on stiff little legs, and she stopped about 2 feet short. She held out her small, scraped, clean-scrubbed hand. "Till I'm grown. Till you're grown." She shook his hand once, solemn as a preacher. "Deal. Deal." Sarah made a sound that was half laugh, half sob, and she pressed her fist against her mouth to hold it in. Daniel stayed long enough to drink a cup of the coffee he'd brought, which Sarah insisted on making, despite not being able to stand up without holding the table. He didn't let her. He made it himself at her direction, and he brought her a cup in both hands, and the first sip she took, she closed her eyes and didn't open them for a long time. "Mr. Carter." "Ma'am? When's the last time you ate?" "Yesterday." "When yesterday?" "Mornin'." "Lord. Lily, hand me that salt pork." "Ma'am, I don't." "Mr. Carter, you are going to eat something in my house, or I'm going to shoot you on principle. Do we understand each other?" "Yes, ma'am." Good. She couldn't cook. She was too weak. Daniel cooked. Lily sat on the floor and watched him slice salt pork with her chin on her knees and her new boots on her feet. And for the first time since her father had walked out of this house, the cabin smelled like something other than sickness. They ate at the small table. Sarah made it from the pallet to the chair with Daniel's hand under her elbow, and she didn't thank him for it, and he didn't expect her to. Lily ate more than Sarah had seen her eat in a month. When the child finally fell asleep with her cheek on the table and a piece of biscuit still in her hand, Daniel lifted her up, careful as glass, and carried her to the pallet and laid her down, and he pulled the new blue shawl over her small body, and he stood looking at her for a long moment with his back to Sarah, so she couldn't see his face. "Mr. Carter." "Ma'am." "What happened to your daughter?" He didn't turn around. "Fever," he said. "Same one took her mama a week later. I was away. He stopped. "I was doing work I ain't proud of, for men like Vance, for money. When I come home, the door was open and the neighbors had buried them both 3 days. "Mr. Carter." "Ma'am." "Turn around." He turned. His face was wet. He didn't wipe it. "I'm sorry," Sarah whispered. "Ma'am, I ain't told that to a livin' soul in 4 years. "Why tell me?" "'Cause you asked. Folks ask lots of things. You asked kind." Sarah looked at this stranger in her kitchen. This broken man with gentle hands, and a past that rode behind him like a second horse. And she thought about Eldon Crane, and the 3 months, and the cough that was eating her from the inside, and the child asleep on the pallet with new boots on her feet. "Mr. Carter." "Ma'am?" "You ain't gonna tell me what else you're running from, are you?" "No, ma'am." "Is it bad?" "It's bad, ma'am. But it ain't what you'd think." "Would it hurt my girl if I let you come back here?" Daniel was quiet a long time. "Ma'am," he said finally, "I would cut off my own hands before I let harm come to that child. That's all I can give you. That and my word that when the trouble comes, and it's comin', ma'am, it's comin' for all of us, I'll be standin' between it and her. That ain't enough." "I know it ain't. But it's more than I had yesterday." "Yes, ma'am." Sarah closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were clear. "Come back tomorrow, Mr. Carter." "Yes, ma'am." "Come back with a axe. That woodpile's a disgrace." "Yes, ma'am." "And Mr. Carter." "Ma'am. Don't sneak around no more. You come to my door like a man, and you knock and I'll answer." "Yes, ma'am." "Yes." He put on his hat. He walked to the door. He stopped with his hand on the latch. "Miss Harper." "Sarah." "Ma'am. My name's Sarah. If you're chopping my wood, you might as well use my name." "Sarah." "Yes, Mr. Carter." "Daniel." "Daniel." He lifted the latch. He opened the door. He stepped out into the cold Wyoming dark, and before he closed the door behind him, he heard very soft from the pallet, a small sleepy voice that had not been asleep after all. "Good night, Mr. Daniel." "Good night, Lily May." The door clicked shut. Sarah Harper sat at the table in the lamplight with a cup of hot coffee in her hands and a shotgun at her feet, and a child sleeping warm on the pallet under a blue wool shawl. And she bent her head, and for the first time in 2 winters, she prayed, and the prayer was only one word: "Please." And outside somewhere on the dark ridge between the cabin and the town, a man rode slow under a thin, sickle moon, with his shoulders squared against a weight he had carried alone for 4 years, and did not have to carry alone tonight. And behind him, in a white house on a hill, a lamp burned in an upstairs window, where a thin, slick man named Eldon Crane stood looking out at the dark, and behind him a voice said very pleasantly, "Who was the stranger at Harlow's store today?" "Eldon." "Don't know Mr. Vance? Didn't give a name." "Find out." "Yes, sir." "Tonight." "Yes, sir." And Jeremiah Vance smiled the smile of a man who had never in his life been told no, and he turned from the window and the lamp went out. Daniel came back the next morning with an axe on his shoulder. He didn't sneak. He walked his horse right up to the front porch in broad daylight, and he stopped at the step, and he knocked 3 times on the open door frame because the door was already open. "Mornin', Miss Sarah." "Mornin', Mr. Carter." "Thought we agreed on Daniel." "We agreed when you was leavin'. This is arrivin'. Folks earn their names twice in my house." "Yes, ma'am." She was sitting up. That was the first thing he noticed. She was sitting up in the chair at the table, pale as flour, but upright with her hair combed, and a shawl he recognized around her shoulders. Lily was at her feet, with the little boots on, and a wooden spoon in her hand, stirring something in a bowl that was too big for her. "Mr. Daniel." "Mornin', Lily May." "I'm makin' biscuits." "Are you now?" "Mama's tellin' me how." "Well, I reckon I ain't had a biscuit made by a 5-year-old before." "I'm almost 6. "When do you turn 6? "When the snow comes." "That's soon." "I know it." Daniel set the axe against the porch rail and stepped inside, and he took off his hat, and he stood in the middle of the small room, not knowing what to do with his hands. "Wood piles out back," Sarah said. "Yes, ma'am." "Take your coat off first. You're going to sweat through it." "Yes, ma'am." He chopped wood for 2 hours. He chopped until his shirt was soaked and his palms were blistering, and the pile beside the cabin was high enough to last a month. He chopped the way a man chops when he's trying to outrun something in his own head, and Sarah watched him from the window when she had the strength to stand, and she knew the look of it because she had worn that look herself once a long time ago. When he finally came in for water, Lily met him at the door with a tin cup held up in both hands. "For you, Mr. Daniel." "Much obliged, ma'am." "It's alone." "Till when?" "Till you drink it." He laughed. He drank it down in one pull. He handed her back the cup. "Paid in full." She beamed. He stayed for the noon meal. Lily's biscuits were heavy as stones and burnt on the bottom, and he ate 3 of them and told her they were the finest biscuits west of the Mississippi, and she sat on his knee without asking permission, and he didn't move her. Sarah watched the 2 of them across the table and said nothing, because what was rising in her chest was something she didn't have a name for and didn't trust yet. "Mr. Carter." "Ma'am." "Can I ask you something direct?" "Yes, ma'am." "How much money you got?" Daniel set down his coffee cup. "Enough." "Enough for what?" "Enough for what needs doing." "The back debt's $140. Daniel didn't answer right away. Lily had fallen asleep against his chest. He shifted her gentle so her head rested on his shoulder. "I can pay it, Sarah." "I ain't asking you to pay it." "I know you ain't." "Mr. Carter." "Daniel. Daniel, if you pay that debt, Vance will know. And if Vance knows there's a man paying my debts, Vance will dig. And if Vance digs, he'll find what he finds." "What will he find?" "Sarah." "What will he find, Daniel?" The child on his shoulder stirred and settled. "He'll find," Daniel said quietly, "that there's a warrant out of Kansas in the name of Daniel Carter for a bank robbery I didn't do." Sarah's cup clattered against the saucer. "That I rode with men who did it, and I didn't know it was going to happen, and when I found out I left and they named me in it anyway, 'cause somebody had to hang for it, and I was the one who wouldn't come back." "Daniel?" "And he'll find that the real man who done it is named Frank Mercer, and he's been dead 2 years, and nobody cleared my name 'cause nobody cared to, and I've been running ever since." "Daniel Carter." "Ma'am?" "Is that the truth?" "That's the truth, Sarah. Before God and this sleeping child, that's the truth." Sarah looked at him for a long time. Her eyes had that brightness fever gives, but behind the brightness was something steady, something that had been there before the fever came. "All right. All right. I believe you." "You ain't got to believe me." I said I do. Why? 'Cause my girl does, and she's a better judge of men than I ever was. Daniel looked down at Lily's sleeping face on his shoulder, and he had to close his eyes for a moment. Sarah? Yes, Daniel. I ain't gonna pay that debt with money. Then how? I'm gonna make them not want the land. How in God's name do you intend to do that? Before he could answer, hoofbeats. 2 horses coming fast. Daniel was up in one motion. He laid Lily on the pallet and drew the pistol from his belt, and he was at the window before Sarah had finished turning her head, and what he saw made him let out a breath, slow through his teeth. Crane. And who? Deputy. Young one. Name of Pickett, I think. Daniel. Get in the back room, Sarah. This is my house. Get in the back room or sit down and don't say a word, but don't you stand up. You stand up and they'll smell blood. Sit down, Sarah. She sat. The knock was the kind of knock that didn't expect to be told to wait. Mrs. Harper, open up. Daniel set the pistol on the table behind him, butt first out of sight, but in reach. He opened the door. Eldon Crane stood on the porch. Behind him a boy of maybe 20, in a deputy's badge that looked too big for him. You ain't Mrs. Harper? No, sir. Who in the hell are you? Friend of the family. Since when's the Harper woman got friends? Since yesterday. Crane's pleasant face tightened. Step aside, mister. I'd rather not. You'd rather not. Miss Sarah's not well. She ain't receivin'. She'll receive the law. Then bring the law. You brung a boy and a bookkeeper. The deputy's ears went red. Crane's smile got thinner. I don't believe we've been introduced, stranger. I don't believe we have. Your name? Ain't volunteerin' one. That's interestin'. Reckon it is. Behind Daniel from the chair at the table, Sarah's voice came clear and cold. Eldon Crane. Mrs. Harper? What do you want? Just checkin' on the child, ma'am. Just seein' how the little one's gettin' on. The little one's sleepin'. Well now, I'd like to see that with my own eyes if you don't mind. I do mind. Ma'am, turn around and walk off my porch, Eldon. Mrs. Harper, the law don't work that way. Daniel hadn't moved. He stood in the doorway with one hand on the frame and the other loose at his side. And when Crane took half a step forward, Daniel didn't step back. Mister, Crane said softly, you are interfering with official business. You got paper. I got what? Paper. You got a warrant. You got a court order. You got anything written down with a judge's name on it. Show it to me and I'll step aside. Don't need paper to check on a child. Then you don't need to come in, mister. My name, Daniel said, is Carter. Daniel Carter. Write it in your little book. The deputy's hand had drifted toward his pistol. Daniel saw it. He didn't move. Son, he said, real gentle to the deputy. If you pull that iron, I'm going to take it from you, and I'm going to make you eat it, and your mama's going to cry at your funeral. Now put your hand somewhere else. The deputy put his hand somewhere else. Crane laughed. It was not a real laugh. Carter. Carter. Well, Mr. Carter, I'll be sure to pass your regards along to Mr. Vance. You do that. Mrs. Harper. Mr. Crane. 3 months. I heard you the first time. Just making sure you ain't forgot. I ain't forgot a thing, Eldon Crane. Not one thing. Not in 2 winters. Crane's pleasant mask slipped for just a second, and underneath it was a small hard man who had been called by his full name by a dying woman and did not like it one bit. Good day, Mrs. Harper. Good day, Mr. Crane. He turned. The deputy turned. They walked to their horses. They mounted up. Crane settled himself in the saddle and looked back at Daniel one last time, and he smiled his thin, pleasant smile. Carter, he said. Carter, Carter. I'll remember it. You do that. They rode off. Daniel shut the door. He leaned his forehead against it. His hand was shaking. Daniel. Yes, ma'am. He knew. He knew something. He didn't know what. He'll know by sundown. I know he will. What do we do? Daniel turned around. He picked up the pistol and slid it back into his belt. He walked to the table and sat down across from her and put his hands flat on the wood. Sarah. Yes. I need you to trust me. I do. I need you to trust me about something you ain't gonna like. Say it. I'm gonna ride back to town tonight. I'm gonna wake up the doctor. I'm gonna pay him whatever he asks, and I'm gonna bring him here, and he's gonna look at you, and he's gonna tell us what we're fighting. Daniel, we can't afford. I ain't asked you what you can afford. I told you what I'm doing. Daniel. Sarah, please. She closed her eyes. All right. And second thing. You got kin. My sister. In St. Joseph. She know you're sick. She knows I'm poor. She don't know how bad. Would she take Lily? Sarah's eyes flew open. Daniel Carter, don't you dare. If something happens to you, Sarah, if it comes to that, would she take Lily? Yes, she would. She would take her in a heartbeat. Good. But Daniel, nothing's happening to you, Sarah Harper. You hear me? Nothing's happening to you. But I learned a long time ago you plan for the worst and hope for the rest, and I aim to hope real hard for this one. Sarah put her face in her hands. Her shoulders shook once, twice, and then she pulled in a long breath and lifted her head, and her eyes were dry. All right. All right. What's the third thing? Ma'am? There's always a third thing, Daniel Carter. Say it. He almost smiled. Third thing is, I want you and Lily to come into town with me next week. Publicly. In the daylight. Walking down the main street on my arm. What in the world for? 'Cause Vance wants this to be a quiet thing. Wants it done in shadows. Wants nobody knowing. I aim to make it loud. I aim to make every woman in that town see a sick widow and a barefoot child walking with a man who buys her boots, and I aim to make 'em ask themselves what kind of a town lets a 5-year-old bleed at a well, while Jeremiah Vance drinks whiskey on a hill. Sarah looked at him. Daniel. Ma'am, you're a dangerous man. Not to you. I know it. He rode out at dusk. The doctor's name was Abernathy, and he was old and tired, and he charged $5 just to put his boots on, and Daniel laid down 20 and said there'd be another 20 when they got back to town, and the doctor came without another word. Dr. Abernathy examined Sarah by lamplight. He listened to her chest with his wooden tube. He looked at her eyes, her tongue, the inside of her lower lip. He pressed careful fingers along her ribs. When he was done, he packed up his bag very slowly, and Daniel watched his face, and Daniel already knew. Mrs. Harper? Yes, doctor. It's consumption. I know it's consumption. It's advanced. I know that too. Ma'am, with rest, real rest, not this kind. Real food, real care, warm, dry air, altitude. If you can get it, a person can live with consumption for years. I've seen it. I've seen it many times. Doctor, don't sugar it. How long have I got in this cabin eatin' what I've been eatin', workin' the way I've been workin'? Dr. Abernathy glanced at Lily, who was sleeping. Not the winner, ma'am. Sarah nodded once, as if he'd confirmed a piece of news she'd already read. And with care. Years, Mrs. Harper. With care, years. I've known women to raise their children to grown with consumption when they were cared for proper. Thank you, doctor. Ma'am. Daniel walked him out to his horse. The old man climbed up slow, grunting. Mr. Carter? Doctor? That woman is gonna die in 6 weeks unless somebody takes her somewhere dry and feeds her. I know it. Then why are you still standing here talking to me? Daniel paid him the second 20. The doctor pocketed it and rode away. When Daniel walked back into the cabin, Sarah was holding Lily. The child had woken and climbed into her lap and was asking in a small, unsteady voice what the doctor had said. He said, I'm gonna be fine, sweet pea. You're gonna be fine. I'm gonna be fine. Promise. Promise. Mama, don't lie. Lily May. Don't lie to me, Mama. Sarah couldn't answer. Her throat had closed. Daniel crossed the room and knelt down beside the chair, and he put one big hand on Lily's small back. Lily May. Mr. Daniel, your mama ain't lying. She ain't. 'Cause tomorrow, your mama and you and me are gonna pack up this cabin and we're gonna take everything we own and we're gonna move somewhere she can get better. Lily stared at him. Where? I got a piece of land. Sarah's head came up. What? I got a piece of land, Sarah. 100 acres high, country, dry air, good well. Belonged to my wife's father. It's been sitting empty 4 years. It's mine. It's paid for. Deeds in my saddlebag. Daniel. I was gonna burn it. I was riding here when I passed your girl. I was gonna burn the deed and the cabin and ride on and never look back. And then I seen her at that well. Sarah pressed her hand over her mouth. It's 3 days' ride, Daniel said. Dry, quiet, nobody for 30 miles, good air, a real cabin, a real stove, a real roof that don't leak. And you're gonna live there, Sarah. You're gonna live there and you're gonna get well, and Lily's gonna grow up with her mama. And if Jeremiah Vance wants this piece of dirt, he can have it. He can have every rock and every weed. But he can't have the two of you. Daniel, they'll come after us. Let 'em come. They'll come after you. They've been coming after me 4 years. I'm tired of running. If they want me, they can find me on my own land with my name on the deed and a sick woman and a little girl behind me, and they can explain to a judge why they rode 3 days to take a man who ain't wanted for nothing. He actually did. Daniel. Sarah. Yes. Say yes. She looked at him. She looked at Lily. She looked at the cabin where she had watched her husband die and her body fail and her daughter bleed, and she looked at the door that Eldon Crane had walked through twice now, and she looked at the blue wool shawl around her shoulders that a stranger had bought her in a town that had forgotten her name. Yes. Yes. Yes, Daniel. Yes. Lily looked from her mother to Daniel and back again, her small face serious. Mr. Daniel? Yes, Lily May. Are you coming with us? If your mama says I can. Mama, he's coming with us, Sweet Pea. Lily nodded. She laid her head against her mother's chest. She closed her eyes. Good, she murmured, 'cause I already shook on it. And somewhere back in the White House on the hill, a telegram was being written out in careful pencil by a slick, thin man named Eldon Crane, addressed to a sheriff's office in Kansas, and the telegram read, Need information on one. Daniel Carter. Stop description follows. Stop reply. Urgent. Stop. And the telegraph key began to click. The telegram came back at dawn. It came back faster than Eldon Crane had expected, which meant the sheriff in Kansas had been waiting 4 years for someone to ask. Crane read it twice in the lamplight. Then he folded it in half and walked it up the hill to the White House without stopping to put on his coat. Jeremiah Vance was at breakfast. Mr. Vance. Eldon. You're going to want to read this. Vance did not look up from his eggs. He held out one hand. Crane laid the telegram in it. Vance read. Vance smiled. Well, well. Yes, sir. Bank robbery. Kansas, sir. 4 years back. Reward. $500, sir. Dead or alive. Vance folded the telegram and set it beside his plate, and he picked up his coffee cup, and he took a sip, and he set the cup back down, all without hurry. Eldon. Sir. Ride to the sheriff. Not ours. The federal man in Laramie. Bring him back with 4 deputies in a wagon. Yes, sir. And Eldon. Sir. The Harper woman. The child. Get papers. Custody, neglect, unfit mother, whatever the judge will sign. I want them drawn up before that federal man arrives. Yes, sir. By tomorrow sundown. Yes, sir. Go. Eldon Crane went. And 3 miles away in a cabin at the foot of a ridge, Daniel Carter was loading a wagon by the first gray light. He'd bought the wagon in the dark. He'd bought it off a farmer 6 miles east for 3 times what it was worth, and a promise the farmer wouldn't mention it in town. He'd hitched his horse and the farmer's old mule, and he'd driven it up to the Harper cabin, and now he was carrying out of the house everything Sarah Harper owned in the world, which was not very much. Daniel. Yes, ma'am. The Bible. Got it. It's in the chest. The picture of my mother. Got it. The quilt, the blue one. Got it, Sarah. Lily's doll. I got it. I got all of it. Sit down, Sarah. You're white as a sheet. I'll sit when it's loaded. You'll sit now, or I'll put you down myself. Daniel Carter, I swear. Sarah. She sat. She sat on the chair by the door and watched him carry her life out the door, one armful at a time, and Lily sat at her feet in the new little boots and held her doll and didn't say a word. Mama? Yes, sweet pea. Are we leaving forever? We're leaving, baby. Is this ever going to be our house again? No, Lily. The child nodded as if this was a piece of information she had already worked out for herself. Mama. Yes. I don't want it to be anyway. I know you don't, sweet pea. I don't like it here. I know. I hated carrying the bucket. I know you did, Lily May. Sarah bent her head over her daughter and pressed her face into the child's hair and did not cry, because if she started crying now she would not stop. Daniel came back in for the last load. He stopped in the doorway and looked at the two of them. Ready. Ready, Sarah said. He lifted Lily first. He set her on the wagon seat and wrapped the blue shawl around her. He went back for Sarah, and she held out her arms like a child, because she had no strength left to climb, and he lifted her, and she weighed nothing. And he set her beside Lily and tucked another blanket around them both. Daniel. Ma'am. The door. He walked back. He closed the cabin door. He stood looking at it a moment, and then he did something Sarah did not expect. He took off his hat. He held it against his chest. And he said quiet enough that only the door heard him. Thank you for keeping him alive till I got here. He walked back to the wagon. He climbed up. He took the reins. Which way, Sarah? West. West. They had gone perhaps a mile when they heard the horses. Daniel pulled up. He listened. He handed the reins to Sarah without a word. How many? 6, maybe 7. Daniel. Sarah. Take the reins. If I tell you to drive, you drive. You don't look back. You don't stop till you hit the river. You follow the river west to a town called Pine Hollow. You ask for a man named Thomas Bell. You tell him I sent you, and you show him the deed in the small leather wallet in the chest. You hear me? Daniel, don't. You hear me, Sarah. I hear you. Lily May. Yes, Mr. Daniel. You take care of your mama. Yes, Mr. Daniel. Promise. Promise. He climbed down from the wagon. He walked 10 paces back down the trail. He stood there with his hands loose at his sides and waited. They came around the bend at a trot, 6 of them. A federal marshal in front with a silver star and gray mustaches, 4 deputies flanking him, and Eldon Crane riding a little apart like a man who knew where the shooting would start and did not intend to be in it. The marshal raised a hand. The deputies pulled up. Carter. Marshal. Daniel Carter. That's me. Son, I'd like you to lay that pistol on the ground and step back from it. Marshal. Yes, Carter. Before I do that, I'd like 5 minutes. The marshal looked at him. The marshal was a tired man with tired eyes. He had been chasing men like Daniel Carter for 30 years, and he had long ago stopped confusing a badge with righteousness. 5 minutes. Yes, sir. Talk. I didn't do it. Son, every man I ever arrested didn't do it. I know that, Marshal. I know how this sounds. But I'd like you to telegraph a man in Topeka. His name is Judge Horace Whitaker. Ask him about the Mercer gang. Ask him what Frank Mercer said on his deathbed about the Farmers' Bank in Abilene, and who was there and who wasn't. Ask him that, Marshal, and then come find me. And if his answer don't match mine, I'll ride back to Kansas with you in chains. And I won't give you a lick of trouble. Carter. Sir, Judge Whitaker's been dead 6 months. Something went out of Daniel's face. Dead? Died in February. I was at the funeral. Then it's his clerk. His clerk was there. A man named Peavy, John Peavy. He took the deathbed statement. He wrote it down. It's in the court records if it's in anywhere. Carter, I can't hold up a federal warrant on your say-so of a clerk in Topeka. I ain't asking you to hold it up forever, Marshal. I'm asking you for a week. One telegram. 1 week. I got a woman in that wagon who is dying of consumption and a child who ain't got nobody else. And if you take me today, she's dead in 6 weeks, and that child is a ward of a man who wants her land. You know that man is Jeremiah Vance. You know what he is, Marshal, or you're the only man in Wyoming who don't." The Marshal's eyes slid just barely toward Eldon Crane. Crane smiled his pleasant smile. "Marshal, the warrant is the warrant." "I know what the warrant is, Crane. Mr. Vance would appreciate—" "I don't care what Mr. Vance would appreciate." Eldon Crane's smile did not falter, but something in the set of his shoulders did. The Marshal turned back to Daniel. "Carter." "Sir." "Who's the woman?" "Sarah Harper, widow, lives in the cabin east of here. That's her daughter Lily, 5 years old." "Harper." "Yes, sir. I heard that name this morning. Mr. Crane here filed custody papers on a Harper child at 6 a.m. Said the mother was unfit." "She ain't unfit, Marshal. She's sick. There's a difference." "There is." The Marshal sat his horse a long moment. He looked past Daniel at the wagon. He looked at Sarah, sitting on the bench with the reins clutched white-knuckled in her hands and a shotgun across her knees she did not remember picking up. He looked at the small face of a child peering over the wagon edge. "Crane." "Marshal." "You filed those papers at 6 a.m. "Yes, sir." "The telegram from Kansas came back to you at what time?" "Shortly after, sir." "Shortly after." "Yes, sir." "So you filed custody papers on a child before you knew this man was wanted?" "Mr. Vance had concerns." "Mr. Vance had concerns." "Yes, sir." "About a child he's never met?" "Sir, I don't care for your tone." "Crane, I don't give a damn what you care for." The deputies were very still now. One of them, a young one, was working hard not to smile. The Marshal turned his horse sideways on the trail so he could see both Daniel and Crane at the same time. "Carter." "Sir, you said a week." "Yes, sir." "I'll give you 3 days." "Marshal." 3 days. "Carter, you stay put. You don't leave this county. You give me your word on that and I'll telegraph Topeka before sundown and you'll have your answer by Friday. And if the answer don't match, I'm coming for you and you'll come quiet." "Yes, sir. My word." Crane. "Marshal, you touch that child or her mother before I hear back from Topeka, and I will personally arrest you for obstruction of a federal investigation. You understand me?" "Sir, Mr. Vance." "You understand me, Eldon Crane?" "Yes, sir." "Say it plain." "I understand you, Marshal." "Good." The Marshal tipped his hat to Sarah in the wagon. He tipped it to Lily. He turned his horse. "Boys, let's ride." The deputies wheeled around. The Marshal rode off. 4 deputies followed. Eldon Crane sat his horse a moment longer staring at Daniel across the 20 feet of trail between them, and his pleasant face was gone, and what was under it was not pleasant at all. Carter. Crane. "You think you won something today?" "I ain't thinking about you at all, Eldon." "Mr. Vance don't lose." "He's about to learn." 3 days. 3 days. Crane touched his heels to his horse and rode after the Marshal, and Daniel stood in the road until the sound of hooves faded completely. Then his knees started to shake, and he sat down in the dirt, and he put his head in his hands. Footsteps behind him. Small ones. "Mr. Daniel?" "Lily." "Are you all right?" "I'm fine, Sweet Pea." "You don't look fine." "I'm gonna be fine." She sat down beside him in the dirt and put her small hand on his back. "Mama says you got 3 days. I heard her. Is that enough?" "I don't know, Lily May." "What happens if it ain't?" Daniel didn't answer. The child didn't press him. She just sat there with her hand on his back, patting him slow the way a mother pats a baby. And after a while, Daniel lifted his head and looked at her, and his eyes were wet, and he said, "Lily May Harper, you are the bravest person I have ever met." "No, I ain't." "You are." I was scared the whole time." That's what brave is. She thought about this. She nodded. "Mr. Daniel?" "Yes." "I'm glad you didn't ride off." "Me too, sweet pea." "Can we go now?" "Yeah. Yeah, we can go." He got up. He picked her up. He carried her back to the wagon and set her on the bench beside Sarah. And Sarah was shaking all over, and Daniel climbed up and took the reins from her gentle as he could. "Sarah, I thought." "I know. I thought he was taking you." "He might yet." "Daniel." "We got 3 days, Sarah. 3 days to get to my land, and 3 days for that marshal to hear back from Topeka. That's all we got. We ain't stopping to sleep." "All right. You rest, you hear me? You rest. I'll drive through the night." "All right." She leaned against him. She didn't mean to. Her body just gave out, and her head dropped onto his shoulder, and she was asleep before the wagon had gone another half-mile. Daniel drove. He drove through the afternoon. He drove through the sundown. He drove through the cold, thin hours of the Wyoming night, with Sarah asleep against his shoulder, and Lily asleep in her lap, and the stars wheeling overhead, and the mule and the horse pulling steady, and he did not close his eyes once. He thought about a dead judge in Topeka. He thought about a clerk named Peavy, who might remember a deathbed statement, or might not. He thought about Jeremiah Vance in a white house on a hill. He thought about his wife 4 years gone, and his little girl in the small grave beside her that he had never once visited, and he said her name out loud in the dark. "Emma." The wagon rolled on. "Emma, I'm sorry." The wagon rolled on. "Emma, I'm gonna do right this time." They reached Pine Hollow at noon the next day. Thomas Bell was a blacksmith with a gray beard and hands the size of hams. He read the deed. He looked at Daniel. He looked at Sarah being carried into his house by Daniel's own arms. He looked at a 5-year-old girl in a blue shawl holding a doll. "Dan." "Tom." "You finally come home." "I finally come home." This is Sarah Harper, and her daughter Lily. They're sick, Tom. She's sick. The child's half-starved. "Martha." A woman came running, gray-haired, aproned, sharp-eyed. "Martha, this is Sarah. And Lily, they're staying. They're staying as long as they need, and Sarah's gonna get well in our spare room, and Lily's gonna eat 3 times a day, and we ain't discussing it." "Dan Carter, you hush. Of course they are." She had Sarah out of Daniel's arms and into a bed within the hour. She had hot broth in the child. She had the doctor from Pine Hollow there by evening, a younger man than Abernathy, with kinder eyes, and he listened to Sarah's chest, and he said the air up here, and rest, and food, and a hot compress twice a day, and in 3 months she would know if she was going to live. And he thought she was. He thought she was. Daniel sat on the porch of Thomas Bell's house that night and stared at the moon, and did not know what to do with his hands. Thomas sat down beside him. "Dan." "Tom." "You got trouble coming?" "I got trouble coming." "How much?" "A federal marshal in 3 days, and a man named Jeremiah Vance who don't take losing well." "Vance." "You know him." "I know of him. Everybody west of the Mississippi knows of him." "Tom?" "Yeah?" "I need one more thing." "Name it. I need you to keep him safe. If I don't come back." "Dan." "If I don't come back, Tom. The deed is in Sarah's name now. I signed it over this morning in the wagon. She don't know yet. Don't tell her till it matters." "Dan Carter, you listen to me." "Tom." "You are not riding back there." "I am, Tom." "You are not." "I am. I got 3 days. The marshal's telegram might come back clean and it might not. Either way, I ain't letting Vance come for them here. I'm going to him. I'm going to him with everything I got, and I'm going to put it on the table, and we're going to settle it." "Dan, that's suicide." "Tom, I had a wife. I had a little girl. I lost 'em both while I was off doing something I weren't proud of because I didn't have the guts to stand and do something I was. That ain't happening again." Thomas Bell looked at him a long time. Then he got up. He went into his house. He came back with something wrapped in oilcloth. He laid it in Daniel's lap. Daniel unwrapped it. It was a rifle, a Winchester oiled and clean with a box of cartridges beside it. Tom. Don't say nothing. Tom, I can't. I said don't say nothing, Dan. Daniel rode out at dawn. Sarah was still asleep when he left. He stood in the doorway of the little room a long moment, watching her breathe. The fever was already coming down. Martha said it would be down in a day. She said the consumption was a long road, but this wasn't the end of it. Daniel walked to the bed. He knelt. He pressed his lips against Sarah's forehead soft enough not to wake her, and he whispered, "I'll come back if I can." He turned. Lily was standing in the doorway in her nightdress and her little boots watching him. "Mr. Daniel?" "Lily May. Are you leaving? Just for a little?" "Where?" "I got to go settle something." "With the bad man." "With the bad man." She walked to him. She looked up at him with those huge solemn eyes. "Mr. Daniel?" "Yes, ma'am." "You're coming back." "I aim to." "No, you're coming back." "Lily." "You're coming back, Mr. Daniel. I decided." He dropped to one knee. He put his arms around her. She put her arms around his neck. She held on tight. "I decided." She whispered into his collar. "All right, little miss. Promise." "I promise." "Shake on it." We already shook. "Shake again." He held out his hand. She shook it solemn, her small fingers tight around his. "Till I'm grown," she said. "Till you're grown, Lily May Harper." He stood up. He walked out. He mounted his horse. He turned it east toward Redwater, and he did not look back, because if he looked back, he would not be able to go. Behind him, a 5-year-old girl stood on the porch of a blacksmith's house in a town called Pine Hollow, and she watched him ride until he was a small, dark shape against the rising sun, and then a smaller shape, and then nothing at all. And she did not cry, because she had decided. Daniel rode into Redwater at noon on the second day. He did not come in quiet. He rode straight down the middle of Main Street with the Winchester across his saddle and his hat pushed back so every face could see his face, and the town stopped what the town was doing. A woman pulled her child out of the dirt road. A man outside the saloon set down his bottle. The shopkeeper Harlow came to his doorway and wiped his hands on his apron and did not go back inside. Daniel reined up in front of the White House on the hill. He did not tie his horse. He swung down. He walked up the steps with the rifle in one hand. He did not knock. The housekeeper screamed. Daniel walked past her. "Where is he?" "Sir, you can't." "Where is he, ma'am?" "The study, please." Daniel walked to the study. He opened the door with the barrel of the Winchester. Jeremiah Vance was at his desk. He was a big man, soft in the way of men who had not carried anything heavier than a glass of whiskey in 20 years, with a white mustache and a very good suit. He looked up. He did not stand. "Mr. Carter." "Vance." "I have been expecting you." "I expect you have." "Please sit." "I'll stand." Vance spread his hands. "As you wish." Daniel stepped inside. He shut the door behind him with his heel. He did not sit. He did not lower the rifle. "Vance." "Yes?" "You've been trying to take a woman's land." "I have been attempting to purchase a parcel whose owner is in arrears." "You've been trying to take her child." "I have been attempting to ensure the welfare of a minor." "Vance." "Yes, Mr. Carter." "Stop talking like a lawyer. It ain't gonna help you." Vance smiled. It was the smile of a man who had never in his life been stood in front of by a man with a rifle and expected to be. "Mr. Carter, what is it you want?" "I want you to write a letter." "A letter?" "To the federal marshal in Laramie, stating that you withdraw all claims on the Harper property, that you withdraw all custody petitions regarding the Harper child, and that you do not intend to pursue either matter further in this county or any other." "And if I decline?" "Then I shoot you, Vance." The smile flickered. "Mr. Carter, you are not a murderer." "No, I ain't. But I'm a man who already lost everything once, and I made myself a promise 4 years ago about what I'd do if it came to this again. You can test that promise, or you can pick up a pen. Up to you." You would hang. I would. For nothing. For Sarah Harper and her little girl. That ain't nothing, Vance. Not to me. Vance studied him. The smile was gone now. What was left was the face of a man who was for the first time in many years actually looking at another man. Carter. Vance. You are wanted in Kansas. I know what I am. The marshal will hang you anyway. Maybe. So why this theater? 'Cause if they hang me, I want 'em safe first. And if they don't, I want 'em safe anyhow. Vance was quiet a long moment. Then he opened a drawer. He took out a sheet of paper. He took out a pen. He uncapped the inkwell. Dictate. Daniel dictated. Vance wrote. The pen scratched. The clock on the mantel ticked. When the letter was finished, Vance read it aloud, slow and careful, and he signed it, and he blotted it, and he slid it across the desk. Will that do, Mr. Carter? Fold it, seal it, address it. Vance did. Daniel took the letter. He slid it inside his coat. Carter. Vance. May I ask one question? Ask. Why her? Daniel looked at him a long time. 'Cause nobody else would. He walked out. He walked past the housekeeper who had not moved. He walked down the steps. He mounted his horse. He rode down the hill into Main Street, and halfway down Main Street, he stopped because Eldon Crane was standing in the middle of the road with a pistol in his hand. Carter. Crane. Mr. Vance wouldn't do that on his own. He did. No, you threatened him. I did. I'm arresting you. Crane, go home. You are wanted in the state of Kansas for the robbery of the Farmers Bank of Abilene, and I am placing you under Crane. Citizen's arrest, and if you do not dismount, Eldon, I will fire. Eldon's son, put that pistol down. Crane did not put this pistol down. Crane's hand was shaking, and his eyes were wild, and Daniel had seen this look before on other men. Men who had backed themselves into something they could not back out of, and he felt very suddenly, very clearly, that one of them was about to die in the dust of Main Street, and it was not going to be him. Eldon. I'll fire Carter. Eldon, your mother is watching. Crane's eyes flickered just once toward the boardwalk on his right, where a small gray-haired woman in a calico dress had stepped out of the bakery with flour on her hands, and her face had gone white as the flour, and she was whispering, Eldon, Eldon, baby. Eldon, put it down. Crane did not put it down. Carter. Son, I ain't your son. I know you ain't. Behind Daniel, a horse came down Main Street at a hard trot. Daniel did not turn. He heard the hoofbeats pull up. He heard a voice he recognized. Eldon Crane. Marshal. Eldon Crane put that pistol in the dirt. Marshal, this man is nothing you need to worry about, Eldon. I had a telegram from Topeka this morning. The warrant on Daniel Carter is rescinded. The real robber was one Frank Mercer, deceased, and there is a sworn statement by the court clerk John Peavy as to Mr. Carter's innocence filed 3 years ago, which was in the court record the whole time, and which the Kansas Sheriff's Office simply never bothered to clear. Mr. Carter is a free man. Put the pistol down. The pistol dropped into the dust. Crane's legs went out from under him. He sat down in the road. His mother came running flour all over her hands, and she dropped beside him and pulled his head against her chest and rocked him like a boy. Daniel breathed. He had not been breathing for some time. The marshal rode up beside him. The marshal tipped his hat. Mr. Carter. Marshal. You all right, son? I'm all right. You look like hell. Ain't slept. No, I expect you ain't. Daniel reached into his coat. He took out the sealed letter. He handed it up to the marshal. What's this? Jeremiah Vance withdrawing all claims on the Harper property and the Harper child. In his own hand. Signed. The marshal looked at it. He looked at Daniel. He looked at the White House on the hill. Carter. Marshal. Did you put a rifle on him? I did. You gonna arrest me for that, Marshal? The marshal tucked the letter into his saddlebag. Didn't see a rifle, he said. Must have been the sun in my eyes. Marshal. Son. Thank you. Don't thank me, Carter. I've been wanting an excuse to do something about Jeremiah Vance for 15 years, and you just handed me one. Now get out of my town and go see your woman." Daniel turned his horse. He rode west. He rode through the rest of that day and through the night and into the second dawn, and he did not stop. He did not eat. He did not sleep. The horse stumbled under him once, and he climbed down and walked beside it for an hour, and then climbed back up. He talked to the horse. He talked to his dead wife. He talked to his dead little girl. He told her he was sorry, and he told her he was coming home to somebody, and he told her he hoped that was all right. He thought it was all right. He reached Pine Hollow at sundown on the third day. Thomas Bell was on the porch. Thomas saw him coming from a quarter-mile out. Thomas stood up. Thomas walked down to the gate. "Dan." "Tom?" "You came back." "I came back." "Dan Carter, you look like a dead man." "I ain't, though." "You ain't." The front door opened. A small shape came out. A smaller shape than Daniel remembered, or maybe just the same, in the blue shawl and the little boots, and she stopped at the top of the porch steps, and she put her hand up to shade her eyes against the sun. "Mr. Daniel." "Lily May." "Mr. Daniel." She ran. She came down the steps so fast she tripped at the bottom and caught herself on her hands and kept running, and Daniel had swung down off the horse before she reached him, and he went to his knees in the grass, and she hit him at a full run and wrapped both arms around his neck so tight he couldn't breathe, and he didn't try to. "You came back." "I came back." "I told you." "You told me." "I decided." "You decided, Lily May." She pulled back. She held his face in her two small hands. She looked at him very seriously. "Mama's awake." "She is." "She ate bread, a whole piece," Martha said. "A whole piece." "And she sat up." "She sat up." "Come on." She took his hand. She pulled him toward the house. He went. Sarah was sitting up in the bed. Her hair was brushed. There was color in her face, the first real color Daniel had ever seen there, and when the door opened and he came in behind Lily, she put her hand up to her mouth and her eyes filled and she could not speak. "Sarah." "Daniel." "I came back." "I see you did." "I brought a letter." "A letter." "From Vance, saying he withdraws." "Daniel." "Signed, sealed, in the marshal's hands. It's over, Sarah. The land, the child, the warrant, Vance, it's all done. It's all over." She held out her arms. He walked to the bed. He sat down on the edge of it. She put her thin arms around him, and he put his arms around her, and she pressed her face into his shirt, and she cried finally, the way she had not cried in 2 winters. Great, shaking sobs that were not grief, but release. And Daniel held her, and his hand shook on her back, and Lily climbed up onto the bed and wrapped her small arms around both of them because that was the only thing left to do. And the 3 of them sat there on the bed like that for a long time. "Daniel." "Sarah." "Don't go." "Where would I go?" "Don't go anywhere, ever." "Sarah." "I mean it." "I ain't going anywhere, Sarah. Ever." "Promise." "I promise." "Shake on it." He laughed. It came out thin and watery. He held out his hand. She shook it. Lily slid her small hand in on top of theirs and held on. "Till you're grown," Daniel said. "Till I'm grown," Lily said. "Till I'm grown too," Sarah whispered. And Daniel closed his eyes, and for the first time in 4 years, he did not feel like a man running from a thing behind him. He felt like a man who had arrived somewhere. Sarah Harper did not die that winter. She did not die the next winter either. The doctor in Pine Hollow had been right about the air and the rest and the food, and most of all, he had been right about the thing he did not say, which was that a person who has something to live for gets well faster than a person who does not. Sarah had something to live for. She had 2, in fact. And by the spring of the 2nd year, she was walking the whole mile down to the creek and back without stopping. And by the summer she was carrying a basket of wet laundry to the line. and by the fall, she was standing in the little church in Pine Hollow, in a pale blue dress Martha Bell had sewn for her, with her hand in Daniel Carter's hand, and Lily May standing between them in the little boots that did not fit anymore, but which she refused on principle to take off for the ceremony. The preacher asked if anyone objected. A voice from the back piped up, "Not me, Lily." The church laughed. Sarah laughed. Daniel bent down and kissed the top of his daughter's head, because she was his daughter. Now he had papers on it, signed by a judge in Cheyenne, and when he straightened up, Sarah was smiling at him with tears in her eyes, and he thought very clearly that this was the best thing a man could ever ask the Lord for, and more than he deserved. The preacher pronounced them. Daniel kissed his wife. Lily clapped. Outside the church, spring was coming up hard across the Wyoming high country. The cottonwoods were leafing. The grass was green to the knee. 100 acres of Carterland rolled out to the west under a sky so wide it hurt to look at. They walked home down the dirt track together, the three of them with Thomas and Martha Bell, and half the town of Pine Hollow behind them. And when they came up over the rise and the little Carter cabin came into view, Lily broke loose and ran ahead, running full tilt in her 2 small boots, her hair flying out behind her, and Daniel put his arm around his wife, and she leaned her head against his shoulder, and they walked slow. "Daniel." "Yes, Mrs. Carter," she laughed. "That's gonna take some getting used to." "You got time." "I got time." Sarah. "Yes." "I never thanked you." "For what?" "For opening the door." She stopped walking. She turned to face him. She put both her hands flat on his chest. "Daniel Carter." "Yes, ma'am." "It was you opened the door." "Sarah, you opened it. You walked through it. You stood in it when Eldon Crane came. You rode through it when the marshal came. You carried me through it when I couldn't walk no more. You opened that door, Daniel. All I did was not shoot you when you stood in it." He laughed. He laughed until his eyes filled, and then he wasn't laughing anymore. Sarah. "Yes. I ain't ever gonna be far from you. Not ever again. I know it. Not for nothing. I know it, Daniel." Up ahead, Lily had stopped at the porch. She had turned. She had cupped her hands around her mouth. "Come on, slowpokes." Sarah laughed. She took Daniel's hand. They walked on. 5 years later, a traveler passing through Pine Hollow stopped at the blacksmith's to have his horse shod, and while Thomas Bell worked, the traveler sat on the bench and watched the road, and after a while he said, "Who's that family up on the rise there?" Thomas Bell looked up. Across the valley, on the porch of a white-painted cabin with a proper stone well out front, a tall, lean man was sitting in a chair with a baby boy on his knee, and beside him a woman with chestnut hair was shelling peas into a bowl, and out in the yard, a girl of about 10 was chasing a younger brother through the long grass with a stick and shrieking with laughter. "That," said Thomas Bell, "is the Carter family. They've been there long. 5 years. They look happy. They are happy. That's a fine thing. It is a fine thing." The traveler paid for his shoe. He mounted. He rode on. And Thomas Bell stood in the door of his forge and looked up at the rise one more time, and he watched a little girl named Lily May Carter knock her brother flat in the grass, and then pick him up and kiss the top of his head, and he watched a tall, lean man named Daniel Carter lift a baby boy over his head and make him laugh, and he watched a woman named Sarah Carter stand up from her chair and walk out into the yard without a cough, without a tremor, without a shadow, and wrap her arms around all of them at once. And Thomas Bell smiled, and he said out loud to no one, "Yes, sir, that is a fine thing." And across 100 acres of Wyoming high country, under a sky as wide as forgiveness, a family that had not been born, but had been chosen, sat down together on a porch to eat their supper. And they never went hungry again. And they never went thirsty again. And the little girl who had once dragged a bucket alone through the dust before sunrise never carried anything heavier than her own brother on her hip for the rest of her days. She had decided, and the world had listened,